Hello Guitar Heroes. Today I wanted to talk about how to get good scores in Guitar Hero. Now a lot of this stuff might seem pretty obvious, but there's a lot of things that you might not think about very often. Now something I really like about Guitar Hero as opposed to other rhythm games is that the maximum multiplier you can get is a ×4. Now some rhythm games, the multiplier will just keep going up for the whole song, and then say you miss a note halfway through, then your score is just completely ruined and you're basically expected to FC everything if you want a decent score. But with a ×4, there are a few things that you can kind of strategize in some ways. Now, not every note is created equally. By that I mean missing some notes can really cost you a lot more than others. Now, we all know that one note, you just hit one note, you'll get 50 points. And then ×2 is 100, ×3 150, ×4 is 200. Now, instead of thinking about it like once you start a song you have 0 points and you just go up and you see how high you can get, think of it as when you start the song, you start with a perfect score, and then every note you miss knocks off a big chunk of whatever that perfect score is. Now, when you really think about it, if you miss one note anywhere in the middle of the song, you'll get -4,200 at the bare minimum. That's 4,200 points just from missing one note. Now the reason that is because when you have a ×4 going, you know, you're going along, you're getting 200 points per note. So you miss one, so that note alone you just missed 200 points, and now you're back to getting 50 points for 10 notes, and then 100 points for 10 notes, and then 150 for 10 notes. And so just getting your multiplier back up to a ×4 will cost you about 4,000 points. And so yeah, it can really add up if you're missing a lot of notes. So let's say if you miss 10 notes in a song, it's much better to miss them all in a row than to miss them like periodically. I mean, I know you don't really have a lot of control over which notes you miss in a song, but yeah, if you missed every 30th note, you would get a horrible score, even though you would get, I don't know, 97% or so. Yeah, if you missed every 30th note, you would do terrible because you would work your way up to a ×4 and you would lose it. So yeah, -4,200 is the bare minimum, assuming you're not doing any double or triple notes or any sustained notes. And so if you're hitting along with all double notes, then that's a minimum of 8,000, or if you have star power, that's a minimum of 8,000. So if you're doing like triple notes with star power and you miss one note, then you just lost a minimum of about 24,000 points just from that one miss. So yeah, it's all about keeping a combo going. When I was younger and I was just like getting started, I could get a decent percentage on a lot of songs, but I couldn't keep a combo, so my scores were just terrible. Now, point number 2 as far as getting good scores is knowing when to use your star power. Now, it's usually pretty obvious that you should use your star power whenever you are hitting a lot of notes. I mean, assuming you're not playing on no fail and you need it to like keep yourself alive, but we're just going to talk about assuming you're using no fail on and you don't have issues with that. So the point of star power is to just double whatever section you choose, basically. So you're always going to want to double whatever section is already the highest. Now, the highest, well, that section might be different than you think, because star power does not last the same amount of time on every song. It might not even last the same amount of time in different parts of a song, because star power, whether it's gained through whammying or it's depleting when you're using it, it's all based on the tempo of the song. And usually it's, I don't know, so like a quarter of your star power meter will last like 2 measures or something, and so like a full bar can last up to like 8 measures. And you can, I don't know if that's like the exact number, but basically if the tempo is lower and you're noticing the bars that are coming down are much more spaced out, then your star power is going to last a lot longer. So you might have fewer notes like per second, but more notes per beat, and so that would be a better time to use it than if it's really fast. And yeah, I would just suggest to use it wherever you know you're not going to miss, because, you know, missing notes during star power is a pretty big blow to your score. The third thing about having a good score is the solo bonuses. Now, I honestly hate solo bonuses because they kind of ruin star counts in a lot of ways. The way solo bonuses work is that, you know, you've got your section where every note counts towards the percentage, and then say you get 100% on a solo bonus, then you get 100% of the bonus. Let's say that bonus is like 10,000 points. It's a short solo or something. So you got 10,000 points for getting a perfect solo. If you miss one note and you get like awesome solo, or I guess awesome choke, that goes down to about 5,000. So you miss one note and your solo bonus gets cut in half. And then let's say you get a great solo, which is 90 to 94%. Then your solo bonus gets cut almost in half again. I've tried like calculating it. It's not perfectly 50% each time, but you know, regardless, it's a pretty big blow if you're getting less than perfect. So, I mean, you should almost always shoot for at least the 95%, because the difference between 94 and 95% can make a huge difference to your score in the end. But the reason I hate it so much is that there are times where, let's say I'm going for like a 7-star run, or back when I used to go for 6-star runs, you would do really well the whole song, but then you would mess up the really long solo. You would miss just a couple notes in the long solo. You'd get like 99% even, and then that, because you got your solo bonus cut in half, that was such a big blow to your score that you weren't able to get, you know, 7 stars or whatever. And so that became really frustrating, because, you know, you do really well the whole song, but because the solo was so long and you missed a few notes in the solo, it just cost you the stars. But I feel like that's been changed a little bit in the recent patches of Clone Hero. I'm not sure exactly, but the songs I was having issues with because of solo bonuses, I haven't been having as many issues with them lately, so I don't know, maybe something changed. But yeah, so just keep in mind that missing notes during the solo bonuses will really hurt your score more than outside of the solo bonuses. So yeah, that's about it for keep making sure your score is high. Just keep your streaks, use your star power in the most point heavy sections, and try to hit as much as you can during the solos. And now, I guess if you've been watching this long, I've got a couple other kind of interesting tips that I've figured out over time. Number one is the guitar placement. So, I mean, if you're using an Explorer, which is probably the most common guitar and most popular right now with Clone Hero, I mean, a lot of people will, you know, they'll hunch over. I mean, you want to get it to, you want to get the guitar to sit on your lap. Here, so I mean, if you're like kind of hunched over, then that can work, because I mean your guitar is not going to go anywhere. You never want to use your strumming arm to hold up the guitar in any way, because especially if you like need to go up and tap or anything like that, then you're going to lose your spot, and you want to be able to have your strumming elbow. So leaning over is fine, I would say, but the way I like to sit is leaning back with my knee up right here for a couple reasons. For one, the more you bend your wrist when you are fretting, the more worn out, and like the more you'll damage your wrist basically. Like I used to play like this, and you know, there's like a big bend in my wrist right there, and after like an hour or two I just like couldn't play anymore because, you know, my wrist was hurting so bad. But if you can find a position where your wrist is mostly straight like this, and you're just curling your fingers to hit them, then you'll be able to play a lot longer and you won't have nearly as much wrist pain. And the other reason I sit like this, I mentioned this in the last video, is that the whammy bar on these things, like, they're pretty loose. They don't stay still very well. And this way, I can wedge the whammy bar right here up against my knee, and I keep it about halfway pressed just with my leg, and I mean I can just keep it there the whole song and it doesn't bother me at all. And so whenever I get a star power phrase with a sustain note, as soon as the sustain note starts, I mean it's already being held down halfway and it'll stay like blue the whole time. So it'll, you know, it'll just it'll give me more star power throughout that entire thing. And so yeah, that's why I sit the way I do. It looks like this from this side, but whenever I make videos I usually try and push it off to the side, and I just kind of ignore the star power for that time. And one other trick that I have been sort of experimenting with, it's a pretty situational thing, and that's say you have a tapping note section. Now tapping in general, there's a lot of sort of BS you can do to it, because tapping is pretty lenient, because as long as you're hitting that note, it really doesn't matter what else goes on. So for example, if say you have like a whole bunch of orange tap notes in a row, I mean that's not something you would see very often, but I've seen it a few times. Now you could just try tapping it really fast if you just were obsessed with tapping, or you could like strum. But something interesting I've noticed is that you can just hold orange and then hit all the notes underneath it just randomly, like as fast or as almost as slow as you want, and you'll get all of the notes, because the only thing that matters when it comes to tapping is that the notes that you're hitting, like your fingers are changing on something. So like you can't just hold orange and then have a bunch of orange notes get hit with tapping. So you either have to like let go of it and then tap it again, or you hit something below it. Now like you can hold orange, or you can hold like all four of these and you can still count that as an orange note. So I mean you could just do this, and so like there's an orange, there's an orange, there's an orange, there's an orange. So I mean it's a pretty situational trick, but I think there's a lot of potential there, because you could also do it with other ones. Like if you just needed to spam red, you could go red, 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 red. I mean every time you push a note down or lift one up, then that counts as a new tapping note. So I mean just kind of an interesting thing I've been looking into a little bit. So hopefully you can figure something out with that, and hopefully you got something out of this. So thanks for watching.